Hello, my name is Sarah Fitzpatrick. I am the Audio and Media Archivist at the Colorado State Archives. I am also the Deputy Coordinator for the Colorado Historical Records Advisory Board, otherwise and throughout this video referred to as CHRAB. This video will discuss the eligibility requirements, application process, and what can be expected with the CHRAB ReGrant program funded by the National Historical Publications and Records Commission, otherwise known as NHPRC. Welcome and thank you for your interest in this opportunity. CRAB was established in 1976 by executive order, and board members are appointed by the governor. In partnership with NHPRC, the board serves two interconnected roles. CRAB reviews NHPRC grant proposals from Colorado organizations and makes recommendations to the National Commission. The board also serves as a central advisory body within Colorado for historical records planning and coordination. As part of this mission, every year, the board applies for a State Board Programming Grant, or SBPG, from NHPRC. This grant is usually $40,000 and is grant money only available to state historical records advisory boards for the purposes of supporting the board's activities. If CRAB is awarded one of these grants, the board then distributes funding throughout the state for projects relating to the preservation of historic records or the education and training in archival processes and best practices. Regrants, scholarships, workshops, webinars, and supply funds are all recent projects funded by SPBG funds from CRAB in the past few years. This video will focus specifically on our regrant program. Because CRAB is dispersing federal funds to smaller organizations and individuals, there are certain requirements set by NHPRC that the board must adhere to when making funding decisions. In order to qualify for regrants, projects must only involve unique archival records. Museum objects, such as textiles or three-dimensional materials, are not eligible, nor are printed books or newspapers for mass publication. What qualifies as an archival record? Unique documents, including correspondence, manuscripts, reports, diaries, and maps qualify, as do photographs, sound recordings, and motion pictures of any format. Projects developed around preserving original electronic or digital records are also eligible for funding. The goal of the regrant program is for archival records to be preserved and made accessible to researchers. Most regrant applications that have received funding focus on the digitization of records, rehousing with archival quality materials, or cataloging and publishing the records in some form. So what will make your proposal as competitive as possible? Have a strong digital component. NHPRC strongly encourages regrant projects to have some sort of digital component such as digitization, reformatting, or the scanning of records. But digital exhibits, data sharing projects, and the use of content management systems to both build robust searchable catalog records also qualify. If you are digitizing records, take the time to submit a well-thought-out digital preservation plan. Simply storing the files on a hard drive is not going to be enough. The board will want to know what file formats you are using. Is there a plan in place for permanent digital preservation and access? And what about file authenticity? If you are unsure about best practices for digital preservation, reach out to the board. We will be happy to help you come up with a plan and point you in the direction of appropriate resources within your budget. There are some projects that will not be eligible for NHPRC funding. These projects include aspects that we are not allowed to fund. Any projects processing non-archival items such as books, museum objects, textiles, and clothing, any publications, closed collections, or collections out of state or not related to the history of Colorado. Projects looking to digitize newspapers should look to the Colorado Historic Newspapers Collection, or the CHNC. CHNC is a new content support program for newspaper digitization and is designed to help cultural heritage organizations across our state increase free online access to historic community news through the CHNC. Their website will be listed in the resources document provided with this video. The next few slides will deal with the ways to write a successful application. Before applying, consider the following. How large is the collection or project? The more accurate the estimate, the better you can understand the needs of the project. Does this collection qualify? Prove your case that this collection is worth preserving. What is the historical significance? How does access to the collection impact the community? Is the media format endangered or obsolete? What will the funds be used for? Have you contacted vendors for quotes or shopped around for equipment or archival supply prices? Have you set the salary of the staff being funded? Most importantly, have a plan. Demonstrate your intentions to show that you understand archival standards. A pilot project can be a great way to strengthen your project as well as strengthen your understanding of the project's needs in order to best communicate that in the application. Are there any concerning issues with the collection? Are there any copyright restrictions? Are there any preservation challenges? Has the preservation needs of the collection been assessed? Some collections can present preservation needs that are best left to the specialists, like mold or natural degradation of the medium, whether physical or digital. Are there access challenges? Is the collection open to the public? Can it be made accessible either digitally or within an exhibit? Include attachments such as photographs or letters of support from your community. Include any pilot project results or any consultation reports. Show the importance, relevance, and need for the project to be funded. Show a detailed understanding of what is needed moving forward. Seek out collaborations with your community, schools, or even other institutions. This can look like shared digital storage with the state library, meetings with an archival consultant to create a project plan, getting letters of support from researchers, educational institutions, or local government departments that would benefit from the project's success. Really sell your collection and project. Why is it important to your institution and community? What makes it unique? What will this grant money do for it? If a collection focuses on the materials of an individual or organization, who or what are they and why are they important? Have a portion of your project include outreach or programming to promote the project. We have seen local community outreach result in donations, patronage, but also oral history contributions that help to bolster the breadth of your collections. Archival and library community outreach can look like partnering with a repository for digital storage or contributing articles to newsletters or publications promoting your collections, as well as the NHPRC ReGrant program. Projects representing diverse communities and/or historically underserved groups will receive extra consideration from the board. Colorado has a rich history within and beyond the past 100 years. We are excited to help tell the untold stories of minorities or indigenous peoples, those outside of the mainstream world. Collections focusing on those differently abled, outside the binary, or otherwise marginalized will be given extra consideration. Now that you have seen the application process, we wanted to share some examples of applications we have and have not funded from the past few years. Our first example of a funded project from a college archive is a project that looked to digitize a collection of films relating to expeditions from the 1930s. The application goes on to detail partnerships with the digitization vendor who is donating resources, the college, local tribal groups, the college's IT department, and library network. Another reason this application was a success was the detailed scope of work, including a well thought out workflow and plan. From processing the films to cataloging, digitizing, preservation, and long-term storage, as well as access. The authors of the grant spent time detailing why the films were important to the community and demonstrated a good understanding of archival best practices and the needs of the stakeholders. An example of a project that was not funded is an application from a community organization requesting funds for general archival supplies and materials such as boxes, files, and shelving. Unfortunately, this particular project was too broad in scope and lacked a digital access component. Additionally, the timeline provided appeared to be overly ambitious. Remember, you will have less than a year to complete your project, so it is best to be realistic and not think too big. Lastly, while the application does mention what the organization's greater role in the community was, there were not any specific stories with specific archival records to show that they are important to the community. The board's recommendation to this group was to reapply for future funding with a more specific project, perhaps just focusing on photographs of important community events from the past 100 years as an example. So now that you have a project in mind, what do you need to do to apply? Grant periods can change every year as CRAB is dependent on NHPRC, whose budget is set by Congress. So keep an eye out on our website and Facebook page for regrant application information, including upcoming due dates. We award regrants once a year, and applicants will typically have between 9 and 12 months to complete the project if awarded. The application is available on our website and consists of 3 parts: the narrative, the budget spreadsheet, and the financial questionnaire. At this point, I'm going to stop sharing the slides and share with you a example of the application. All right, so this is our regrant application form. The dates on it are not accurate, but you will see that you will get something that looks similar to this. I am the administrator, so it may look different to me, but you will get a introduction page, which will include a link to a paper application, for lack of a better word, which I can show you right now. Um, and you can use this application form to send in a draft application, which I will talk about in a few minutes, or A and B, or B, fill it out on your computer, not online, and then you can copy and paste into the application when you are ready, before the due date. You also have a link here to the budget spreadsheet, an example of the budget spreadsheet. You'll be able to see how it's laid out and how you can, break down your expenses, and then you can fill out yours when you receive it. So we'll go back to the application. Okay, great. And then the next page is where you get started. You enter all your information. I'm not going to enter too much because it will take a long time, but I will just kind of do this. You enter all your contact information, and it helps to have a secondary contact just in case, but it's not necessary. And then we get into the questions. How does it relate to the mission? How does it support and improve preservation and access? I should be filling these in as we go because it won't let me go otherwise. Your specific financial needs, utilization of technology. And then you have your project summary where you're going to show your intended activities and demonstrate the historical significance of your project. And then you're going to identify the audience, and those that will benefit, and any other products or outcomes of the project, as well as your sort of personal method of evaluating the project's success. You'll then have an opportunity to lay out your plan quarterly. We have, 4 quarters in the grant cycle, and each quarter you'll have an opportunity to submit reimbursement requests, but we would also like to know your plan of action. And then you will be asked these financial questions, which are intimidating, but they are not disqualifying. And in fact, you can click unsure for ones that you are unclear about, and we'll be able to help you with that later on. So let me just get through all of these so that you can see what will happen, which is, let's see here. Okay. Okay. So then you'll hit submit. And what happens when you hit submit is that an email is sent to the deputy coordinator, and they are to download your application and send it to you in a PDF form for you to confirm the details. In case you made any typos or errors, it's perfectly fine to resubmit after that point. Within that email, you will also receive a blank budget spreadsheet like the example I showed you before for you to fill out. This is not an automated system, so if you submit on a Friday, you may not get that paperwork back until Tuesday or Wednesday of the following week. So if you submit it on Monday, you'll probably get it by the end of the week. Doesn't really affect anything, just letting you know that it's not an automated system. So let's go back to the slides. Okay. So I'm going to repeat myself a bit, but that is to your benefit so that it's understood. The narrative is an online form. Here's where you explain the project and why it is important. Fill out each question completely and with details. Include attachments such as photographs and letters of support. This is where you should be as detailed in your answers as possible and really sell your project to the board. Once you've submitted your application, the deputy coordinator will send you an application acknowledgement email containing a copy of your application for your review as well as the link to the budget spreadsheet and financial questionnaire. This email also contains instructions and tips on how to allocate funds and how to fill out the spreadsheet. You can fill out the budget spreadsheet and email it to crab@state.co.us with the specified naming convention listed on the slide. Institutions are required to contribute a match amount of 25% cost sharing, cash and/or in-kind effort. This amount must be reported on the federal financial report at the conclusion of the grant session. If you are awarded the full $5,000, you must show that your institution spent at least $1,250 on the funded project. Matching funds can be salary paid or partial payment for a purchase mentioned in the application, but you must keep track of it. CRAB generally awards grants of up to $5,000, as I had mentioned. Be sure to fill out the budget form completely and include as accurate numbers as possible. For example, if you plan on spending some of the money on archival boxes, be sure to include a link to the boxes you would like to purchase, as well as the most recent pricing. The more details you can provide, the better. The financial liability questionnaire is a requirement for the state of Colorado and of all ReGrant recipients. We recognize that the questions can be intimidating. Do your best to answer them. Please note that any answers are not an immediate disqualification. They just provide statistical information to the state and may indicate to the board that you may have additional questions. Upon announcement of the grant funding, you will have the opportunity to send in a draft application for review by the board. The deadline for this will usually be 2 to 4 weeks before the application is due to give the board time to review it and you time to revise. An announcement will be made that applications are being accepted. At that point, you will have the opportunity to submit a draft application, as I had mentioned, edit, then reapply, or just simply apply by the designated deadline. So what happens after you submit your application? After the closing date of the application period, the board will meet to review all applicants and vote on approval usually within 30 days of the applications being closed. To vote, the board uses a metric and scores the applications based on several criteria, including completeness of application, whether or not we think the project can be successful, whether it represents a unique or underserved community or population of the state, whether the budget is feasible and clear. Once the board votes, you will receive an informal email with the board's decision. If your project is awarded funding, the board's deputy coordinator will send another email containing an award letter, financial forms, and deadlines for reporting and reimbursement requests. You will need to sign the award letter, fill out the tax and other financial forms, and return them to the deputy coordinator. The email will also contain the date range within which all funds must be spent. All receipts, invoices, and timesheets must fall within the grant cycle. So you applied for grant funding and your project was not awarded, but why? Did your project include or focus on the archiving of non-archival materials? Was your plan vague and lacking detailed information? Was the project too ambitious? Did it seem to be too much work for the single grant cycle? Did the application leave information out? Was it lacking a complete plan? Did it include quotes and links to intended purchases? Reimbursements are processed quarterly. You will be required to submit receipts, invoices, and/or pay stubs and timesheets to the deputy coordinator along with the appropriate expense forms provided by the State Archives accounting team. The deputy coordinator will ensure the appropriate approvals are made by the state archivist, and then they will be sent to the archives accounting team for processing. Please allow up to 6 weeks for a reimbursement to be processed. If there are any questions, you may contact the deputy coordinator through crab@state.co.us. Along with the reimbursement forms, each regrant application will be required to submit 2 reports, the mid-year report and the final report. The mid-year report will be due halfway through the grant cycle, just after quarter 2, and is a short informal report on the progress that has been made. The final report is due at the end of the cycle. The final report includes the final narrative, which is a standard form found on our website, the federal financial form, and any remaining reimbursement requests. In the final narrative, you provide a detailed overview of the overall outcomes of the project. Include all the quantifying information, how many linear feet, minutes, scans, or cataloging records have been processed. Did the project go differently than planned? How? And what did you do to remedy any problems with your original plan? The federal financial form looks intimidating. It will come with instructions and is your opportunity to show that you spent all the funds that were awarded to you. Going to reiterate the federal financial form information. It is thought to be the most intimidating aspect of the process. This is where you outline the funds that were spent on the project. Instructions for the federal financial form are provided to help with these forms. This report provides the opportunity for you to show that you used the full grant amount you were awarded and that you contributed your match cost amounts. Each institution is required to keep track of their match amounts. Please read the instructions. The following is an example of what to expect for a timeline during the grant period. Please note the dates listed are just an example and may not necessarily correspond with the dates required for the active grant period. Look to your award letter for important dates for your specific grant period. First, CRAB generally will announce the grant program and start accepting applications in the spring. Institutions are encouraged to submit drafts, but it is not required. Final applications, including the application narrative, budget spreadsheet, and financial questionnaire, will be due in the early summer. Once the application period closes, the board will meet and vote on approved applications. The awards will be informally announced around 2 weeks before the grant cycle, and the award letter packages are sent out shortly after. The grant cycle will begin and you will start your project. At the end of the first quarter, reimbursement requests will be accepted, processed, and sent to you. Please allow 6 to 8 weeks for reimbursement funds to be processed. At the end of the second quarter, reimbursements will be accepted again, but you will need to submit them with your mid-year report. Again, this is an informal "how are things going" report. At the end of quarter 3, any reimbursement requests that you have are due. And then at the end of the grant cycle, all reimbursement requests are due. All receipts must be within the grant cycle. Then 2 weeks later, the final narrative and the federal financial form are due. This allows the board time to prepare our final report to NHPRC. Thank you for watching. If you have any questions, please let us know. You can find contact information on the provided resource page, as well as links that I may have mentioned in this recording. Thank you very much and have a great day.